I'm Medea Benjamin with Code Pink, and I thought those two presentations were really fantastic. We work very closely with Ali. I'm based in DC, and he is constantly calling us up to say, so and so from the Saudi government or the embassy is going to be speaking at this hotel tonight. Get over there. And we get over there, and in our usual form, try to dress up nice and get inside there. And when there's some really fancy event happening, we pull out our signs and call the Saudi rulers the kind of criminals that they are. We also, when the first flogging happened, Raif Badawi, he was sentenced to 10 years and 1,000 lashes, and it was supposed to be 50 lashes a week on Fridays after Friday prayer in public spaces. I mean, this regime is just beyond the pale. And so the first one they did, there was actually a hidden video that was taken of it. And when that was shown and went viral, the regime got embarrassed. And groups like Amnesty took this on, Human Rights Watch took it on, and there was a big campaign that was created. And so the immediate week following, when he was supposed to get his next 50 lashes, they didn't do them. And they said it's because his wounds hadn't healed from the first 50 lashes. So he wasn't healthy enough to get his lashes again. But really what it was is that there was this huge public outcry. And thanks to that outcry, he hasn't been lashed since that time. But he is still in prison. His wife and 3 children are now living in Canada. His wife is very active in the campaign to free him. Also, the other members of his family are very active, and his lawyer, Walid, who has been, Walid Abdul Khair, he has been sentenced to 15 years in prison. First it was 10 years, and because he was unwilling to apologize, he was given 15 years. And that is for defending people like Raif and for starting an organization called Monitor for Human Rights. He was charged and convicted of having an unlicensed organization, but of course when he tried to get a license for his organization, the Saudi government refused to give him that license. I think it's really important to increase the campaigns and the awareness around this case, these 2 cases, because they are symbolic of so many other cases that exist. And to show that these kind of support campaigns work, I wanted to mention that today a prisoner in Egypt who his name is Mohammed Sultan. He had been in prison for being a translator during the days that the Morsi regime was under attack by this coup. And he is an American citizen, 26 years old when he was arrested, 27 now. He'd been on a hunger strike for a year, a hunger strike. So he was released today and is just being sent home. Tonight he is going to be received by his family and friends at Dulles Airport, and it is really, really an exciting time. But it shows that these kind of campaigns can be successful. So when we talk about what to do, I think one of the things is to increase the support for Raif and Walid. Since a lot of things were mentioned, I'm just going to say a couple of things that either weren't mentioned or I want to emphasize. One is the level of arms sales to this regime. The deals that have been cut with Saudi Arabia are the largest arms sales in the history of selling arms. We're talking about $60 billion. So there are U.S. companies that are getting very, very wealthy off the sales. Now, there was recently an arms deal that was done with the Canadians, And there is a big outcry in Canada for the Canadian companies and the Canadian government giving the okay for these arms deals. It is seen as so blasé now in the United States to be selling arms to Saudi Arabia that we don't have that kind of outcry. But we need to do that. There was mention about the Saudi crushing of other democracy movements. I have been in Bahrain, saw the beautiful outpouring of support for a democracy movement in that monarchy that is neighboring to the Saudis, and was there every night when the people would go out onto the streets, being tear gassed every single day, being arrested and beaten up every single day, and yet they would go out again and again and again. The Saudis, with the okay from the U.S., went in with U.S. tanks, rolling into a foreign country and crushing that democracy movement. So it's not just what they're doing inside their own country, it's what they're doing to neighboring countries. And we did talk quite a lot about Yemen. An issue that hasn't been brought up is also the fact that half of the workforce in Saudi Arabia is a foreign workforce. And these foreign workers are treated pretty much, except for the high-level professionals, I'm talking about the ones that do the manual labor, are being treated like forced labor. Many of them are not allowed to change from one employer to another. They're not allowed to exit the country without permission from the employer. So this issue of who is building up this regime are really indentured servants from other countries. And then the issue of women. This is a regime that is the worst possible regime in terms of the way it treats women. I have been to Iran several times. I was just there in November. In Iran, you see women, yes, they have to wear a scarf, but they're out on the streets all the time by themselves. They're in every single level of employment. And yet, Saudi Arabia, women have to be totally covered. And in fact, there was just a video that went viral that showed a woman who was covered except for her eyes, and she had the abaya on. All you could see was her eyes and her hands. And she was shopping in a mall, and there was a member of this commission to promote virtue and prevent vice. You might have remembered around Afghanistan they had these. The Taliban had these. Well, they have them every day in Saudi Arabia. And this one of the guys who was part of this commission saw this woman without gloves on and started yelling at her that she was indecent and that she had to leave the mall. And she pleaded to be allowed to stay there. And he said, no, you're indecent. You have to get out of here for not having gloves on. And this is only been publicized because there was a video taken of the incident. But this is normal activity in Saudi Arabia. Women are not allowed to, without a male guardian, not allowed to travel, get a passport, married, get higher education, visit a male doctor, not allowed to drive, and not allowed to vote in national elections. There was a campaign by women to drive. It was called Women to Drive, and they put out a call to women around the world to give support and to do videos showing their support. Code Pink was very involved in that campaign. Two of those women are in prison and have been sentenced for illegal activities by trying to drive. There is just some of the other things that is illegal to do in Saudi Arabia is illegal to publicly practice a religion other than Islam. It's illegal to call for atheist thought. and of course illegal to express disloyalty to the rulers or to communicate with groups that are hostile to the regime. And this is a very important one to mention because it can put people in trouble getting the support from people here. In fact, the Saudi women that we were supporting suddenly said, wait, stop, because it was getting them in more trouble communicating with people outside of Saudi Arabia. One thing that Ali brought up, because I think Stanley, who is so wonderful in all of this, wants to talk about what can we do. Ali brought up a very important thing, which is companies and groups that get money from the Saudi regime. Now, we can have a great campaign on this, and I would like to pass around a sign-up sheet, if that's okay. Because I think out of this could come a group that wants to do some work on this issue together, and that would be to come up with a list of groups that take money from the Saudi government. Now, this list will be extensive. If you look just at the PR companies, it's the big firms like Hill and Naughton, Burston Marsaller, the Corvus Communications Group, Fleischman Communications, former congresspeople like the Texas Congressman Tom Laufer, lots of think tanks like the Middle East Policy Council, universities, NGOs. I mean, the list will be huge. I think we should make this list. I think we should start with the low-hanging fruits of ones that might be embarrassed when we publicly talk about them receiving Saudi money. And I think we have to make it a very dirty thing for people to be taking Saudi money.